Okay, President Proctor, go ahead. Okay, if we can unmute the microphone on the table with the board, I think we'll be ready.
All set.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, President Proctor, and to the audience, my apologies about the technical difficulties.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the San Mateo-Foster City School District Board Study Session. It is October 11, 2022, and calling the meeting to order at 5:36 p.m. If everyone can please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will start with roll call. Trustee Corzo. Here. Trustee Watkins. Here. Trustee Chin.
Here.
And I am also here. We can move on to item 4, approval of the agenda.
Motion. Go.
No, you go.
No. Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you for the motion, Trustee Chin, and second, Trustee Corzo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone approves that? We can move on to item 5, which is public statements related to agenda items. Please limit your statements to 3 minutes. So maybe we can do one. Let's see if there's anyone with public comment now, and maybe check in again a little bit later. So Peter, can we check with the Zoom audience?
Absolutely. If there's anybody in the Zoom audience who may have been doing this for the first time and would like to make public comment, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Okay, we have one. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you. So as a parent of 2 children currently receiving their education in this district, I am really excited to hear more about where our district fares in terms of science education and achievement. I think most parents out there listening will echo that sentiment. As a member of the community, I am just as interested to hear how our district will be addressing equity and how science education is delivered. As I was reviewing the slides that will be presented as part of tonight's agenda, I couldn't help but notice an important equity group had been left out yet again from the equity discussion: students with disabilities. Historically, this group is left out of many, if not all, discussions in terms of equity. Often, these students are relegated to special day classes where separate and unequal tends to be the acceptable way of educating students. Often, if you were to ask parents and special education advocates, public school education for students in these classes equates to basically marking time till graduation or promotion. Special education law is quite clear. Special education is defined by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act as specifically designed instruction at no cost to the parents, designed to meet the unique needs of a child with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. Least restrictive environment includes the general education setting, which I'm assuming is the setting where most of this data was collected. Last spring, this board created and voted in a strategic plan, which is guiding the data collected and being presented tonight. That achievement goal that is being used to guide this study session reads as follows: to create learning opportunities for all pre-K through 8th grade students, resulting in closing the achievement gap and culminating in personal and academic success in high school and beyond. The data presented tonight to the board highlights economically disadvantaged students, Hispanic, Latinx students, and English learning students. Where's the disaggregated data for the group that even a board so laser focused on equity seems to forget? Where's the data for the students with disabilities? I am saddened that a school board that includes a regional center social worker and an educator who holds a special education credential can forget about an equity group that makes up roughly 10% of the student population. I am saddened that district leadership has seemingly forgotten students with disabilities as well. Sadly, this omission of students with disabilities from tonight's presentation demonstrates that ableism is alive and well in the San Mateo-Foster City School District. Please remember that all students means all students. Black, brown, socioeconomically disadvantaged, Latinx, English learners, autistic, physically disabled, intellectually disabled students all fall under the umbrella of all students. I hope that this board and district leadership remember that. It is true, those students mentioned in the slides are very deserving of a high quality education, but so are those that aren't mentioned. Let's end rampant ableism in San Mateo-Foster City School District and remember to include students with disabilities in future discussions of education equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, President Proctor, we have no other hands for public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item 6A, which is our topic of science, K through 8.
Well, super thankful to have a room full of educators here who are leading the work across our elementary and middle schools, in our classrooms, across our 21 schools, and joined by our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, David Chambliss. David, I'm going to hand it over to you. I know you have quite a number of topics to discuss with the school board this evening and with the community by extension, but tonight's special study session is an opportunity for us to really dive deep into science education and into the experiences that our students are having this year, and to talk about the bigger picture, really beginning at those early grades and going all the way through our 8th grade program continuing here. So with that, I'll turn it over to David.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I am joined this evening by two of our science leads in our district, our program specialist Ian Kostelik and Angel Yan, one of our teachers on special assignment. So I'm going to invite them to begin really a sort of a structured conversation. So we're going to share first a little bit of data with you and a nod to the speaker's concern. I will take the opportunity to add some information. It is with my sincerest regret that we did not break out, in addition to the data that we provide to you on the deck, how our students with disabilities are doing. So we'll speak to that. We'll give a little bit of overview of the next generation science standards and our plan in science over the next 5 years as part of our strategic plan. And then we'll go into some detail around the 2 curricula that we are implementing, both at the elementary and middle school, discussion of how our outdoor ed program ties to our science learning, and then 2 exciting programs that I know you all are familiar with, both the Legos education program and the Paxton Patterson college career elective that we're implementing at the middle school. So we're going to try to, do some chunk of sharing information with you, and then give you all a chance to have a discussion, ask some questions, bring in the community to speak to what they've heard, and then kind of toggle back to another section. So it'll be, as I said, a kind of structured conversation. So with that, actually, I will turn to Angel if she would begin the discussion this evening.
Sure. It is very nice to meet all of you. My name is Angel Yan. I actually started off in this district as a middle school teacher, teaching science over at Abbott Middle School, and I taught there for 6 years. And then I am now one of the district science TOSA. And today I want to first share with you what is our data telling us at this point. So how do we measure our data? Our students, they take their first science assessment at 5th grade, which is at the end of their elementary school year. And then they're assessed again at the end of 8th grade. And this test that they take is called CAS, California Science Test. It is a statewide online assessment based on California Next Generation Science Standards. Due to the pandemic, our students did not take the CAS in 2019 to 2020 and 2020 to 2021 school year. So you can see on the screen, the one that is crossed out are the one that they did not take the CAS test due to the pandemic. And what we have the data for so far is from 2018 to 2019, that's the year before the pandemic hit, and 2021 and 2022. So first, let's take a look at the CAS testing score for 5th grade, the year before and the year after the pandemic. So in the year before the pandemic, you can see on the screen that 47.09% of our students met or exceed standards for science. And in the year after the pandemic, 48.87% of the students met or exceed the standards for science. So when we are comparing the two numbers, what we are seeing is that the two numbers are relatively the same before and after the pandemic, with actually a 1.78% increase after the pandemic. Let's take a look at the score for 8th grade. For 8th grade students, before the pandemic, we have 45.73% of the students meeting or exceed the standards for science. And after the pandemic, we have 45.29%. So the number again are relatively similar, whether we are looking at the 5th grade and the 8th grade group. And this one with only a 0.44% differences. So with that, we will also take some time later on to look at some subgroups shortly. What about if we are comparing ourselves to neighboring district in the San Mateo County? So I put a few counties, a few districts on here. So I'll give everyone a moment to take a look at that first. We're right here in the middle. When we are calculating the average for the San Mateo County, the average come out to around 47%. So we are actually slightly above the average for the whole county, with some district around us performing better than us and some otherwise. So now we want to take a look at some subgroups where we want to analyze this data to see what is the next step that we need to take. And this too is where we might find some shocking data. The first subgroup right here are students who are economically disadvantaged. The orange line represents the subgroup in 5th grade, and the purple line represents the subgroup in 8th grade. One good news that we are seeing when we are seeing this graph is that we do see a slight improvement after the pandemic for both subgroups, for 5th grade and 8th grade. So right here, this orange line and purple line that we are seeing that is increasing slightly. But what we also do see is that there is still a significant gap between the student population in general versus the subgroup. The next group we want to take a look at is our Hispanic and Latino students. And in both grade level 2, again, we see a very similar pattern that we are seeing continuing achievement gap. We do see a slight decrease in the test score after the pandemic for both subgroup in 5th grade and 8th grade. Last but not least, we will take a look at the data for English learners. And this is perhaps where we find the most shocking and the greatest achievement gap. And again, the orange line right here represent our 5th grade subgroup, and the purple line represent the 8th grade subgroup. One of the good news is that for our 5th grade subgroup, we do see a 3% increase after the pandemic. This is also the time where we are using a new curriculum trait. However, when we are looking at the graph, in our general population, we are seeing a mid 40% of our students exceeding or meeting the science standards. But when it comes to the subgroup for English learner, it dropped as low as 1.61%. And as high as 7.27%. So why might that be? So let's take a look at how CAS is structured.
Angel,
yes.
Let me just interrupt because I do want to respond to the question that was raised by the speaker at the outset. Let me just add for your information that when we look at the CAS performance in 2018-19 of our students with disabilities, the percentage was 11.27%. And in 21-22, the percentage, this is meeting or exceeding standard, the percentage was 13.19%. So, similar to some of the pattern we're seeing here, fortunately, a nice increase in those years of about 2 percentage points. But again, a fairly substantial gap compared to our overall.
There's also, again, the data that we're referring to is not yet publicly available. So we have access to be able to view and discuss without being able to give the context of the bigger picture in the state and other districts around us with specifics. But our fifth graders, the data is really, really positive. Our fifth grade students with special needs 4 years ago before the pandemic, 12.5% were meeting or exceeding standards in science. And last year, close to 20%, 19.7% of fifth grade students with special needs were meeting or exceeding the standards in science. And that's really important to think about, because in California, it's very common for growth across groups to be somewhere in the 3% range. As a school district, most school districts would be really excited to see a group grow 3% from 1 year to the next. In this case, our students suffered through a pandemic. And on the other end of the pandemic, the group increased by a really substantial close to 7%. So I think that's something to celebrate. And those are the data for our students with special needs. But I think the other part of how it connects to the work that we're doing is being a very data-focused school district. We're always looking at those subgroup scores. In this case, it didn't happen to make it into this chart that was being demonstrated tonight. But I think you can see, Mr. Chambliss is really quick to pull it up and to be able to talk about it and add that to the conversation. Because I think our students with special needs, our English learners, both groups were called out specifically in our AL3 report, which we discussed at length at our last special study session. And then in addition to that, just having the continual focus on those groups of kids, in addition to low socioeconomic, all of our ethnic groups, home language, and then on a school by school basis as well. So I'll hand it back over to
Can I
you.
ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So when we say all, so like the 47, 48%, that's like an average of everybody, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about gaps, you should really look at like all minus the group that we're looking at separately. So like Hispanic, Latino, the gap is probably much more, right? Because they're factored into the average. So
Yeah.
I think.
And you can look at it that way, actually, not for Hispanic, Latino, for ethnicity and race, it actually doesn't allow you to pull it out that way, but for other categories like disability or language, it will allow you to separate it out. When a category has like an either or, like you either have special education services or you don't, you are able to look at the two groups separate from one another. Yeah. Yeah, and they're also different kids. The fifth graders who took the test last year are not the same fifth graders who took the test 2 years ago, right? They're students that went from here to here. So the fifth graders became eighth graders and our second graders became fifth graders, but it's the same content standards. So it's the same target for us.
So let's take a look at the CAS testing to see how it is structured and what are some of the next steps that we can take. So the test is composed of discrete items. Discrete item that they mentioned right here, they're talking about standalone item, meaning it's this one question that is pertaining to that topic. And performing tasks, that will be a group of test items, so of multiple questions that were developed for a specific single science concept or phenomenon. And this segment are presenting different orders. But let's take a look at some of this CAS questions. This is an example for fifth grade. So you can see that it's a multiple choice question. We can see that they don't have any visual clue. You really have to understand each word to be able to select the best answer. You can definitely select one answer, but you might not select the right answer without understanding what the words mean. Here's another example for fifth grade. And right here, you can see that there is a passage that they're reading. And then afterward, they have to put a short response to answer the questions. Here's an example from 8th grade. Again, this is a multiple choice question after reading the data that is being presented. And this is another short response question for 8th grade.
Sorry, I'm like remembering.
I think, one of the things we've talked a lot about the literacy elements that are essential to math performance. Well, you're seeing here, particularly the literacy skills that undergird success in science. It's not just the vocabulary, knowing a road, knowing carrying capacity, but it is the entire structure of the questions, which if we don't do something about the literacy needs of our students, we're not going to see improvement in a large way in our science performance. So.
Yeah, and Angel and Ian and our middle school science teachers do a really wonderful job of organizing their instruction in a way that makes it accessible for kids who might struggle with the language, who might, as you know, we educate a fair number of newcomers who are in middle school grades, and the instructional activities that we have in place with our science curriculum, our teachers are out there making those modifications so that the learning can be accessible to those students.
So right here, let's take a look at our district strategic plan. So our first achievement goal is to close this achievement gap that we have been seeing for different subgroups and create learning opportunity for all students. From our subgroup analysis earlier, there's definitely an existing achievement gap. So then what is the next step following that? First, we are having new science curriculum implementation in both elementary school and middle school. There's NGSS, high quality, hands-on, engaging, and phenomenal based. And we'll talk more about this curriculum in depth in the next section. As mentioned earlier, we see a significant gap for English learning CAS score early on. And right now, our early elementary school grade, they're focusing on literacy skill. So with the skill to be able to read, students will be able to read to learn. And our 4th and 5th grade teachers, they also have a 3-day professional development on integrating science and literacy and ELD on our district summer PD in June and August this year. Our middle school, we are implementing our curriculum for the first time this year. And because of that, we are having professional development throughout the year. We actually just have one this afternoon, and I think that they just finished 10 minutes ago as we speak. So they have an hour where they are learning about the unit, how it's supposed to be taught. And then they have another hour of planning and collaboration. And this is a very special opportunity because this unit collaboration, we are not just inviting our general S teachers. We are actually inviting our RSB teacher as well. So teachers who have
Or students with special needs,
Yes.
their teachers
Yes.
are in these meetings.
Yes, they are invited to the meeting.
So they're a part of it.
Yes. So we really want to have this collaboration where general ed teacher can share tips with our SB teacher. How can they support the students in different ability? How can they create resources for the students all together? We also invite our newcomer teacher as well. We know that science has been a subject that a lot of newcomers has difficulty with because there's a lot of vocabulary. So they are also invited to the meetings, and we also share the recordings of this meeting with the teachers as well. And in addition, on the right side, we also have a lead teacher group. They are our modification team. So in every curriculum that we have piloted so far, a big reality that we have found is that there is no perfect curriculum, no matter how hard we look. But we realize that as we get closer of having a curriculum, we have an amazing teacher group who is looking at how the curriculum is working for our students, what type of modification and resources we can make together as a teacher group, and we can share across our district. And in addition to that, we also have very exciting opportunity in our district from outdoor ed, Legos, Paxton Patterson that you're going to hear about later tonight. And now we would like to open up for any questions or comments.
For us, right? Okay. Comments, thank you for leading this work. I think it's super clear that we have, as a board and as staff, our eye on like all students and making sure that we are leveling up the way that kids can navigate, learning science and being hands-on. I'm really excited to see all of the, like the last slide, like the three kind of, what's the word, like experiential, that's experiential, there we go. Experiential learning. It's like super, I think, important because a lot of kids, they might struggle a little bit with like the textbook and the word problems, but they can like thrive hands-on. And my son's going to outdoor ed next week for the first time, and I didn't get to go when I was a student in this district, so I'm so excited for him. And I wish that I could go and volunteer and hang out with them over there. I might have to do that at another time. But I'm excited for everything that he'll learn and that the kids will learn. And we did get to see the labs, one lab, and it was amazing. And I haven't got to see kids in action with the Legos just yet, but I hope that's soon. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
I'll speak for myself, but actually I won't speak for myself. We as a board support you and the work that you're doing. And yeah, keep it up and let us know what you need from us as well.
Thank you.
I'll just say, I think, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I feel like my memory is like not, but I don't think we've had like an in-depth conversation about science in this way, like with the disaggregated data since I've been on the board. And at least if we have, it was maybe like, yeah, so everyone shaking their head, okay, cool, I'm right. I was like, am I missing something, did we? But and I know the study sessions are new, it allows us to deep dive, but this is like an important part of what our students are engaged with. And for some students, I was mentioning, it was not me when I was a student, that's okay. Like this is something that really excites them and something that like motivates them, right? And when we think about like the uniqueness of our kids and, for some kids, this is it. And, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that are like naturally highly engaging, but for some kids, just science content is really engaging, right? And it's a thing that they wake up like being excited to go to school for. And so I think it's important for us, as a board to hone in on each of these pieces because they're things that are happening. And so I just appreciate first and foremost the opportunity to like be here having this conversation. And I think just on the data piece to like comment on a couple of things that you all said, I just think that, I continue to be just grateful for how much like we're digging into the data. And I think there's a piece around like, there's so much that you all are looking at all the time that it's like not even possible to give visibility into what that looks like. But there are conversations sometimes I have a superintendent of Cho and I'm asking about things and he's like, oh yeah, I have that in a spreadsheet here, and like pulls it up really quickly. And so that's kind of what happened here, right? It's, I do think like great for us always to make sure that we're thinking about every single one of our subgroups and bringing visibility to that, right? So that the public has awareness into that. And like know that when there isn't visibility into those things are happening. Like you have the data at your fingertips, you had different data at your fingertips. You talked about PD and thinking about integration for all of our students and educators and how they can collaborate with one another. So just appreciate like the data-driven focus and continuing to center the needs of our students that we know are where we're seeing this achievement gap like alive and well across every single area. We know that's the case, and thinking about like all the strategies that we're
that we're engaging together. So I think those are kind of my core comments on like this section of things, and I look forward to digging in a little bit more.
I was just gonna chime in and say thank you again for all of this information and for all that you're doing. I appreciate you sharing some sample questions for the test, because I think, you know, it, like David said, everything comes back to being able to read and read and comprehend in English. And so I know that it can be probably pretty frustrating and just maybe sad, right? If you're not super strong in reading and English and maybe not scoring so well on these tests, and the fact that our district has other opportunities, hands-on opportunities for our students to still excel in math and science and find things that they really enjoy to do is I'm really grateful for that. But again, I go back to the tests and just how it must feel as a student where maybe you do love science, but you just can't comprehend the questions and you're not able to answer the right questions all the time. So, you know, just wanted to acknowledge that I see that's a challenge for people.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts, similar thoughts. It's about the reading levels, you know, right? You know, by sharing the questions with us, I think it's really sort of eye-opening in terms of, so the same thought of when we moved to Common Core Math, right? It became much more about reading. And, you know, and the fact that we are addressing, you know, reading, and we're doing more emphasis on reading and reading comprehension, I think is really great, because that, you know, will show further improvement both in math and science. But it is difficult because you think about the fifth graders who may just be there, but the reading comprehension part may not be there. And so, and you know, we've all taken those tests, whether the SAT tests or something, where they will confuse you, you know, on purpose. And so it's that's a difficult thing. And so, yeah, kids who actually do really love science or math, and, you know, they may be really good at it, but they have a poor reading comprehension. They may not score very well. And so I think it's sort of enlightening to understand that, you know, that we're being tested not just on science, but their reading ability. And our scores, obviously, I mean, I may highlight that we're just slightly above average, but I mean, you know, right, we're trying to be way above average, right? You know, I know that we're not sharing the other districts and we label them A, B, C, and D because, you know, it's not really nice to point out our other districts that aren't doing as well or maybe even better, but we want to be up there at the top. So, you know, obviously, I think, you know, we're changing the curriculum. We're pushing in a lot more professional development. You know, we're having a major emphasis on reading, which is good. And so I think that'll help. I do have one question though. When was the last time we actually updated our science curriculum? Because I don't remember. No, before Twig, before when Twig came in.
Right.
That was, I don't believe.
It was, well, it predated me.
Yeah.
And so it was about six years
Yeah.
before we had been using the middle school level. We had been, which just to say, in general, the curriculum available took a long time for publishers to really catch up with NGSS at the middle school level. And so actually we were using a curriculum that was developed by another district, which was sort of a half step into NGSS. But really this Open Science Ed arguably is the first full strength NGSS science curriculum that we have.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Because I remember when we go through curriculum changes, I just don't remember that's a science one. So yes, thank you.
There it is. Peter, can we check if there are any, if there's anybody that would like to make public comment at this time? We'll take a little break for that and then dive in.
Absolutely. If there's any members of the audience who would like to make public comment, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. Okay, President Proctor, we have no hands for public comment.
President Proctor, if I can add, when our educators were going through the process of finalizing the recommendation to the board, which the board approved, several months back. Something that really struck me about how they arrived at the decision and what the curriculum says about science. This is available for anybody online who wants to log into the OpenSci Ed website, but it says we provide teachers the materials and support to get, and this is in all caps, all students excited and curious about the world around them and confident in their ability to shape it through questioning, investigating, and solving problems. And I think it really says something about where we are as a district, that we chose a curriculum that describes the purpose of what it's trying to do in that way, because it's very similar to the kind of language our math teachers are using. Like, this is about science, but if you take that and try to apply it to how we're teaching math, it's kind of similar in a lot of ways. It's about getting kids to become thinkers and decision makers and to do analysis. And it's just really exciting to think about our kids. It's almost like they're being treated like they're older than maybe they would think, where you would say, like, science is doing worksheets and memorizing things. This is more about thinking about the world around them and thinking about concepts in science and becoming active learners in that process. So I just think it's a real credit to the teachers that, because I know that we had a lot of teachers that put a lot of time. I think our director of curriculum and instruction, Kenyatta Cook, she says it's like 7 years. She used to teach science actually. But it takes time. It takes time to do that. And they landed on something that I think is going to be a really strong program for years to come for this district.
All right. So just in case you're not familiar with NGSS, I want to share with you a very brief overview. The next generation science standards started in the early 2010s through a collaboration between National Research Council, the National Science Teacher Association, the American Association for Advancement of Science and Achieve. So what they did for the first step was that they first developed a framework for K-12 science education that identify the science that all K-12 students should know and should be able to do. And this framework provided the blueprint for developing NGSS. Then secondly, the states, they led the developments for K-12 science standards and produced a set of high quality college and career ready K-12 next generation science standards that was published in 2013. Now, when you take a look at the logo right there, you will see 3 different colors: orange, green, and blue. And each of that color represent a different dimension of next generation science standards. And they're all distinct, but equally important in their own ways. And I'll give you a moment to read over this. The orange section that you see, they're the core disciplinary core idea. They're the one that we are more familiar with. They're the key ideas in science. So you can see physical science, life science, earth and space science, and engineer. This core idea build upon each other and increase in complexity as students progress throughout the school year and throughout the grade level. The blue represent the science and engineering practices. They describe what scientists do to investigate the natural world and what engineers do to design and build systems. This too get more complex as students progress through the grade level. So for example, for analyzing and interpreting data, in K-2 second grade, they may be discerning the difference between qualitative and quantitative data. But when they go to middle school in the same standards, they will be able to use mathematical representation to describe and support scientific conclusion. So it can be on the same line, but you can see it really built on the complexity. And the green one on the right side, that is a cross-cutting concept. And this helps students to explore the connection of what is similar across the 4 domains of science. So what does that actually mean? This is published by National Research Council. And as we see right here, in this type of learning, there's a lot of less of rote memorization of facts and terminology. It's not just memorizing the periodic table, which element are there. Instead, it will be facts and terminology that they learn as needed while they're developing explanation and designing solutions supported by evidence-based arguments and reasoning. Instead of just learning disconnected ideas, they're doing system thinking and modeling to think about how this phenomenon connected together. And instead of teachers just giving the information to the class, students are conducting investigation, solving problems, and engaging in discussion with teacher guidance. So we're going to take a look at our first example in our elementary school. We'll take a look at this video right here. Let me test the sound to see whether it works.
Across California has begun an adventure.
Let me see.
Twig Science is the only program from scratch.
There you go. Okay. Twig Science is built especially for California next generation science standards to ensure that all students have an interwoven understanding of SEP, DCI, and CCC, the three different colors that we see within the NGSS logo. They take in consideration of the diverse population in California, and it's designed to be inclusive of all students, regardless of race, gender, disability, language ability, socioeconomic background, and any national origin. They have this curriculum in both English and Spanish. They have a comprehensive platform for teachers and students, and they have modules that were designing especially for distance learning during the pandemic as well. With Twig, students are challenged to experience different STEM roles as they become creative problem solvers, making sense of engaging in real world phenomena. In kindergarten, for example, students take on the role of a meteorologist, where they're observing weather patterns, learning to interpret weather forecasts, and preparing for the worst weather. In fifth grade, they take on the role of a hydrologist, where they investigate the growing issue of not having enough water, which we experience here in California. And so we will take a look at a sample. Would we have time to take a look at a sample unit, or should we go to? Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So we will go over to Open SciEd. But right here, this phenomena is basically on our ultimate playground, where students learn how to make a playground, and they learn about force and whatnot as they are doing this project. And then throughout each of the TWIG module, they also have driving question which build on complexity so that students are able to understand and explain the anchoring phenomenon. So with that, we will share a little bit about our new curriculum for middle school, Open Syed. It is our science pilot teacher have thoroughly field tested and deeply evaluated 6 programs over the past 3 years, which seems to be 20 years, but it's actually 3 years, searching for a high quality NGSS curriculum. OpenSci has been designed from ground up with the intent of guiding students to become lifelong learners of science and develop critical thinking skills that transcend the classroom and apply into their daily life. OpenSci has been evaluated by equipped peer review panel for science and is listed on the NGSS website as a high quality NGSS design curriculum. This is a roadmap that each of the unit in OpenSci take. They all start with an anchoring phenomenon. So in 6th grade, for example, they start by investigating a one-way mirror. 7th grade, they take a look at what happened before they put the bath bomb in water and after they put the bath bomb in water. 8th grade, they recall experience of what happened when they break the cell phones, what happened to the screen. Then they go through different step and routine to figure out the answers. So what makes this type of learning different? And you see quite a lot of our classroom example in our middle school teachers classroom this year. So after students are exposed to a phenomenon, they come up with questions and put them together on a driving question board. And these are the questions that drive students' learning and curiosity throughout the module. You can see right here, there are a lot of post-it that is, each of them are individual students' question. On the right side and base side, there is actually driving question door where they put on the question for all the peers together. In Open Syed, they build ideas as a community through discussion and collaboration. And the 4 key things that they're focusing on is being respectful, equitable, committed to the community, and moving the science thinking forward. And they also revisit this classroom notes throughout the school years to remind students how a science classroom should be like. They figure out the phenomena as they go. And as they collect one evidence, their original idea may change and grow. So right here, this is the bath bomb unit. And what happened is first they were taking a look at what happened when they put the bath bomb in water. In this picture, they're taking a look at each ingredient of bath bomb, touching it, smelling it, and seeing what they're made of, how they are different. This is an example from Abbott. So let's take a look at that.
Angel, could you do me a favor and
Yes.
go ahead and pause the video? I'm going to share the screen because I don't believe the audience at home was able to hear the last one. So I've
Sounds
got
good.
video from the board website.
Okay,
Take over in just 1 second.
sounds good.
Okay.
3 of them have
There's a lot of bubbles. What causes the bubble here?
But the baking soda and the citric acid, when they mix in the water, it makes them like how they react, chemical reaction.
Oh, so this is a chemical reaction, okay. Oh. So what happened in here is that they mix 2 chemicals together and they realize that they make gas, and with the gas that they produce when they open the bottles, that blew out the candle. So that's what they were able to see. Peter, should I share my screen again, or would it be easier for you to?
Go ahead and share your screen for right now.
All right. And this one right here, this is another example from Burrell. So this is their initial idea. So they have an initial claim. that they have, and each classroom, each peer could have a totally different claim. So you can see that all these posters are from the same teachers, but throughout different period, they may have different claim that as they go through the unit, they are proving that it is true or it's not true. And then they gather all the key model idea on a poster. And this is also a great visual for all students to recap what they have been learning so far. This is an 8th grade unit on what happened when they break their cell phones. And you can see students having discussion around that topics. And Peter, would you be able to share this video?
Yes, hold on one second.
Thank you.
I needed to find it. There we go.
Should we go all the way?
Oh yeah, you sure.
Hi, Anna.
Okay, so let's do this.
Do not do that. Oh, amen.
Thank you. So what happened in this video is that they're using a spring scale to see how much force they can put to break a wooden stake. They do a lot of breaking in this section, so it's very exciting. They break CDKs, they break rice noodles, they break all kinds of things. So it's a very exciting unit that they can really relate to. Hopefully less of them are breaking the phone now with the yonder pouch. But before, I'm sure that this is something that either they experience or they know people who have broke their cell phone before. And let me share my screen one more time. So another part is that students are able to use their own language to describe their ideas. This is the unit from 6th grade where they are looking at the one-way mirror. And right here, you can see that these 3 examples are from the same classroom. But even though that they're from the same classroom, they are all explaining what happened when one student, they see the mirror and they see themselves, the teacher, they see the mirror, but they are able to see the students. But you can see in each of this picture, they describe this phenomenon differently. They can use arrows, they can use picture to describe it. This is over at Abbott. So you can see this is the same phenomenon again, but even though there is the same picture, every student, they have their own way to explain and describe it. So it really allows students either to describe it using their home language. It allows students to describe it using pictures, not just with words. It also allows students to really take ownership in their own learning because they are coming up with this idea their own. So right here, I'm going to give a moment for everyone to read this to kind of recap how learning this way is really different. So with that, if you would like to learn more about NGSS and our curriculum, feel free to visit our district website, or you can use the QR code on the screen. And now we will open it up for any questions or comments.
I thank you for the presentation. Sorry, I was gonna say, sorry, my son brings in, I think some of the experiments that you've showed us, he's done and brought home, and he goes into the bathroom, and I think there's flour in our sink, in his bathroom sink, and everything else, and I'm always worried about him clogging our pipes. But I understand that it's probably following from his science class, and so I'm, on one hand, really happy that you shared these examples. And sorry for the pause, but I just like it just reminded me of all the experiments that he's been doing. And I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. So I thank you. I'm sorry, I don't have any questions. That was just
That's a good one.
weird pause. Sorry.
It's very
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we're working
Yes.
on.
Yeah, thank you.
One thing, if I can comment, you discussed in the presentation, Angel, that when students are making meaning of their science learning, They're using evidence
Yes.
to be able to support claims that they make. And I want to reiterate how fundamental those two things are to the way that we teach reading and writing in middle school in this district, as well as math. So it's another example of the kind of alignment we're seeing in how we're teaching kids, where in science classrooms, instead of giving kids a lot of pieces of information and making them memorize information, we're giving them tools and then demanding that they think about what evidence supports the claims they can make about a given science experiment. And it's something that they do in their English classes. And I think teachers hear that from kids, and kids will say, hey, I did this in my English class. Why am I doing this in science? And, you know, it's sort of like a reminder, yes, we're on the right path. We're seeing those effective strategies, because this is actually what universities want to see kids be able to do. And it's what employers want to see kids be able to do, not just be shown one thing to repeat it, but having somebody who comes to you and can solve problems and work through frustrations. It's a really simple thing, but for me, a very important thing.
Just say real quick, this makes me want to be in middle school and doing experiments again, to be honest with you.
Looks fun.
Yeah, it does look fun. So I'm just happy for the kids. I had a really interesting science teacher when I was at Abbott Middle School, and don't think we got to do enough of this fun stuff. So yeah, I'm happy for the kids. And it looks fun for you and for the
Yes.
adults and everybody too.
Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate sharing this, because as parents, we don't always know what it's like in the classroom and what our kids are doing. And so seeing these pictures and videos of kids like collaborating together and being curious and finding out answers together, it's makes me happy to see. So thank you for sharing all this.
Thank you.
Just wanted to add just kind of a nod to our teachers who are really digging in to imagine what's required in setting up and executing lessons in this way. There's something very easy about kind of the sit and get, stand and deliver kind of instructional delivery, but we're asking them to flip that and introduce phenomenon first, and then guide discussions and allow students to collaborate and break things. And so just, a call out and an appreciation for our teachers and what we're asking them to do here, because it is truly a shift that it's enjoyable to them because they see the benefits of students engaged in this way, and it requires a lot of preparation, much more than we've ever asked them to do before. So just wanted to note that it's an important condition that exists in our schools.
Okay.
Do you want to invite any comments?
Sure, we'll do one more round of public comment. Peter, can we check if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to make any comments at this time?
Yes, if there's any members of the public that would like to make comment, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. Okay, President Proctor, we have no hands for public comment.
All right, great. We can move on.
Okay. All right. And last but not least, another way that we want to explore our students to science education is through outdoor education. And outdoor education, that is something that a lot of us are familiar with in this district. It's a really immersive science experience because students are actually there in the outdoor, experiencing the beach, hiking, going outdoor. And one of my favorite memory is walking on a trail without being able to see. It's completely dark and you just have to trust the person before you're like, are they tapping the floor that they're supposed to? Like, then you're able to follow along. But all this experience are truly life-changing for students. I remember even I took some of the newcomers to the outdoor ed programs, and before and afterward, it is amazing experience because you can see that even the way that they're able to use their oral English, it increased dramatically after the experience. And I even have some of my newcomer students come back later on as cabin leaders as high school students. It's truly so rewarding. But one of the challenges that we have seen so far is that some school that they have been going in 6th grade in middle school, and some school going in 5th grade in elementary school, and some do not get to go at all. And because of that, we will see that some students, they were offered the opportunity to go twice in their time with us in this district. And some students offer once, and some students that they were not offered this opportunity at all. So with that, this year and onward, we are continuing to work with F Foundation to raise fund, and also with Nancy, our Director of Equity and Inclusion, to make sure that our students will get an opportunity during this time that they are with us in the district to be able to go to outdoor education. And this year, we have a very exciting news. We are seeing that we have a few new schools that are going to outdoor education this year. We have Beach Park, that is a new school in the district, and we also have our Title I school joining for outdoor ed. In fact, they all do, 2 of the school will be going next week. So that will be very exciting news I would love to share with the board and the community. So with that, I will be passing this time to my colleague, Ian.
Can I ask a question just about outdoor education? So you mentioned, I know that Burrell goes in 6th grade.
Yes.
Foster City Elementary is in 5th grade. Is there sort of a thought of, choosing one or the other, or has it been positive that it's both in 5th and 6th grade? I'm just curious because I know that you had mentioned that there's sometimes some kids are offered twice. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, we're actually moving to the idea that outdoor ed becomes a capstone 5th grade experience. So yes, Burrell is going to be going this year, but actually after this year, I think it's after this year, I may have my years wrong, but the idea is by next year.
We'll generally move it
I
down.
think maybe by the following year, we will have all of our elementary schools going, which means that our middle schools will not be going. I mean, whatever 5th or 6th, that you have an opportunity to experience, it's obviously a wonderful experience. I think, the logistics of doing it at the elementary level are in many ways, much simpler than trying to manage it at the middle school level. So that's why we're moving toward that goal.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. I'm going to pass the time to my colleague. Yes, go ahead.
It wasn't a question, just that I saw on the slide that in the past, not every student had access. And I want to say that this year that my son is going, I had a teacher personally message me. I had a teacher call me today and say, hey, you need, the form, you forgot a date, fill it out. He's going, he's all set. And so if that's happening for me, because I missed a date on the form, I know that the outreach is happening to other families, and I'm super grateful for it because those little reminders and those touches show families that we care, that we really want their child to come, and that they're going to be taken care of, and that it's going to be amazing for them. So.
All right.
Do you need a minute to switch? Should we just pause for a second?
Yeah.
Maybe we could do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
take a couple minute break and come back. Okay. We'll be right back.
And go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ian Kastelic, and before I get started with my presentation, I want to encourage our board members to look at that calendar and think about going up for a day to outdoor ed, some of the outdoor ed facilities. We have administrators do that very often. And all the times that I've been up, we have principals and administrators come up, and you're welcome to do that. You might not want to go when your son's up.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah.
Uh-oh.
He might be mad at you.
You might want to talk to him about
Go a
that.
different week.
I love going outdoor ed. It's the same place, Jones Gulch.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, if you go down to, for Jones Gulch, if you go down to Pescadero and then up that road past Memorial Park. It's up there. It's a beautiful drive, and you'd be sure and stop at Duart's Tavern on the way back. Have some of their food. It's amazing. Yeah.
Good food, good food.
Peter, I don't think I have an opportunity to share.
I try to promote you as a panelist. It might ask you to accept.
Now it just jumped on. Thank you very much. Cool. And can they see my Lego screen? Yeah, we can. That's fantastic. All right. So as I said, I'm Ian, and I am the science program specialist for our district. I've been in the district for 8 years and am very thrilled to be in this position. I also went here as a student. I went to Meadow Heights, and I went to Abbott, and I then went on to Hillsdale. So I'm a local boy. So one of our new implementations that we're working on in our district is, as you can tell by the screen, the Lego learning system. And before we get into that in depth, I want to give you just a little bit of background. So the guy who started Legos was Oleg Christensen, and he was a carpenter in the 1930s in Denmark. And the 1930s were tough for a lot of businesses, and Oleg's was no exception. And he turned to making wooden toys in order to try to increase his revenue in his business. And he made the first one was the duck. You can see the duck there. And it was one of those pull string ducks. And that worked really well. But as his son grew up, his son was decided that they needed to generate something that was more of a play system. And his son encouraged Oleg to make a system that would invigorate kids' imagination, creativity, and curiosity. A system that could be with parts that could be used together, with parts that could be used again and again, and end up with different outcomes. So in 1958, the first plastic brick was made, and it's up there, right, red in the middle. What's really interesting is that all Lego bricks ever made anywhere in the world will fit with all Lego bricks that have ever been made. So they're not different iterations, unlike some current technologies. We shall remain nameless for the moment.
Certain phones.
So the name Lego is formed from the two Danish words, meaning words leg and godt, which means to play well. Years later, Gottfried, that's Oleg's son, discovered that the word Lego in Latin means I assemble or I put together. I think that's pretty cool. But enough talk, let's play. So I'm going to hand out to our folks. Sorry that those of you at home can't join in. Just a little package, and I'd like you to open it and take the bricks and put them out in front of you. And this will be noisy for a minute. And if our friends in the back would like to play too. Don't forget the duck. So here's your bricks out in front of you, and you're going to take a minute and you're going to build. Don't start. I see some of you cheating. You're going to take 1 minute and you're going to build a duck, and you need to use all 6 pieces. Now the only rule is that you cannot look at your neighbor's duck while you're doing this. So you can do it in your lap, you can do it behind, anything you want, but keep your duck hidden. 1 minute, ready, go.
Is there timing? Let's see we done. Done.
That's fine.
Times half up, you have 30 seconds. Remember, keep him hidden once he's made, or she. or it. Thank you. Once they are made. Appreciate it. Come to a conclusion, 10 seconds. Okay, your time's up. Please stop building and set them aside or in your lap for a minute. So we often believe that play has some measure of value. Children enjoy it, but it's not really serious. But what are students actually doing while they play? Are they actually learning? What were you doing? You were being playful, you were experimenting, you were trying things out, taking them apart, putting them together again, and taking risks with new ideas. This is the ultimate way of play. That skill translates really well into our society today. And while you didn't think that you had really time to think during the time you were building, your brain was actually working like crazy. Only 6 bricks, you were using 24 different skills. Here are those skills. Which of these skills do you think you were using just now? Here's a few to focus on. All of these skills are transferable to all areas of our classrooms. The ones I have highlighted are self-regulation, executive functioning, symbolic representation, and spatial visualization. If you look around, and please do share, hold up your ducks now. And look at your ducks. Look at your neighbor's duck. Hold them up. Don't be embarrassed.
Oh, our dick is different. I don't know what it is. You're the cutest duck.
That's actually very cool.
I don't know what that is.
What do you mean? There's the legs.
See?
Yes. Okay.
Legs.
Yeah, it's kind of a.
Legs. I forgot about the beak.
Upright.
I was thinking a yellow duck.
Look at his duck. Look at his duck.
I forgot about the beak.
Well, he cheated.
Actually, if I move this,
I
Oh,
love
yours is so cute. Look at mine.
That would've been
What
better.
happened here?
that would have been better. I should have done that. Changing my mind.
I've done this several times.
I've seen kids do this.
And I love the opportunity just to watch the group once they hold them up and start looking at each other. The joy that you see, the excitement that you see, self-deprecating humor perhaps, is really cool. There are very few ducks, if any, that are identical. And you look at the screen and you see this from one of our PDs that we had. That just reinforces one of the most important things that we can teach kids. There are lots of ways to solve the same problem and to get the right answer. And you just did that. Here we see some of our new teachers during their training days, and they're doing the duck build that you just did and more. A fun extension of this one, and I encourage you not to get overjoyed and go on with this on your own, but a fun extension of this is for 2 of you to put your ducks together in the pieces and build a mega duck. And that's really fun. Maybe later. So here's our teachers putting together some good stuff. They had an opportunity to play as a means of introducing Lego to them and letting them know that it would be part of their classroom this year. Let's get into the weeds a little bit and look at our program. Why Lego education and what does it offer? So these notes that I'm going to show you are from a study done by the Harvard Graduate School of Education called Project Zero, Pedagogy of Play. And the study was not about playing with Legos, but about play being a vehicle for enhancing learning in our schools. So play-based learning relaxes and engages students. This transfers to all other subjects the study found. The pedagogy of playful learning is grounded in play, playing towards specific learning goals. Oh, you can't see that. I wonder why it's not working. My screen sharing is up. Let me go back. And seem to have been frozen. It's on my screen, but it's not on yours. Perhaps it will self-correct after my next slide. The pedagogy of playful learning is grounded in playing towards specific learning goals. And All students, regardless of age or ability, benefit from playful learning. So I seem to be frozen. Peter, if there's anything you can do to help, maybe I'm going to stop sharing and try again. Let's do that. Okay. There, no,
There it is.
Yep. Okay, there's this one, but not my previous one. It's frozen again. It won't forward. Looks like Peter's taken over. Way to go, Peter. Okay. I need to get my notes back. All right. And
Well, isn't that funny? It's happening to me too.
that's a funky monkey.
I thought this is planned science. Yeah,
There it goes.
Science presentation. Yeah. Oh,
Okay, is that you presenting or is that me?
That's me. I'll go ahead and do it, Ian.
Okay. Let me catch up. Get back to where you were. Okay. So on to the next slide, please, Peter. Thank you. So from the white paper, Learning Through Play, published by LEGO, playful learning through LEGO is meaningful, socially interactive, actively engaging, iterative, and joyful. Thank you. So learning through playful experiences help children develop cognitive skills, including problem solving, flexibility, and strategy, emotional skills, self-awareness that helps understand, manage, and express emotions, physical skills, sensory motor skills, and spatial understanding, and social skills, collaborative and communicative, and understanding others. Last, creative skills, ideas to reality, changing ideas into reality, and using symbolism and representing ideas. Go ahead, Peter. Thank you. To have our 1st through 4th grade students engage in purposeful play is one of our goals. Learning through LEGO experiences in order to enhance the whole child and heighten their degree of joy. And also a goal, create a space where this play can happen and in which students can experience many right answers, communicate with their peers, and experience lessons that directly relate to their learning in ELA, math, and science. So our goals include having classes, connecting and extending their work. Peter, will you go back one? I'm sorry. Having their classes connecting and extending their work in ELA, math, and science with exploration in LEGO, rather than thinking of the LEGO experiences as being separate from their other learning. For example, students who are reading a fiction story in their ELA class may use LEGO to create or recreate a pivotal scene of their choice from the story. Upon completing their build, they can share with each other, their partner, why they chose this scene and what about it drove their story. They could then write about it as either a formative or even a summative assessment. So if we can encourage our teachers to use LEGO as an extension of their lessons rather than as a one-off or a separate activity, which is fine as well, but integrating them will bring a lot more meaning to the students. Thank you, Peter. Our LEGO classrooms are redesigned for the encouragement of collaboration and exploration. And what we're seeing here is the before shot of the College Park Elementary classroom that was designated for a STEM space in which LEGO will be utilized. And go ahead to the next slide. And here is that beautiful new room now. The 6 tables per classroom are called elemental star tables. These, at them, 6 students can sit in groups of 2 on either side of the star's points to play together. They could also sit alone too for other activities. They're sitting on oodle stools. The height of these stools can be changed by adding or removing layers, and the bottom is convex, so that students can wiggle or wobble. That can also be changed by the teacher if kids get out of control. There's 10 degrees of motion off of perpendicular for kids to wobble. Thank you. Go ahead. Next slide. And in every one of our Lego rooms is a Lego wall. Typically, a 4x8 Lego wall will be mounted in each STEM space. And the Lego bricks are hanging in file bins on the wall. You can see between those two. This particular configuration of the room did not allow us to have one solid wall, but we had two instead. The walls are made of these 10-inch by 10-inch Lego base plates. And they are first put together on board horizontally, like on the floor or on sawhorses, and glued down with something like liquid nails. And then our maintenance and operations folks mount them to the walls and make them look pretty and put borders around them. Next slide, please. Thank you. Implementation by the numbers. 18 is the number of schools that are participating. That's all of our elementary schools. 22, the number of Lego leads making it happen on their site. These are teachers or para educators or even librarians at one of our sites is the Lego lead, and other folks as well, volunteers, parent volunteers. 79 indicates the Lego kits that are at each site. 79 Lego kits at each site for the students to use. 192 is the number of classrooms that are involved in our district, and 5,760 are the number of students that are exploring Lego. Next slide, please. The other part of our implementation are those kits that I mentioned. Let's take a look at the Lego materials that are available at each of our sites. Next slide, please. Oh, you did it. Thanks. The first few kits here are designed to be used in pairs, like at those elemental tables we talked about. So you see that 18 of them are provided so that a group as large as 36 students, 18 times 2 kids per kit, could be working with them at a time. This is Spike Prime. Spike Prime is a computer robotics block coding, moving into line coding kit. This is the top of the heap. And this is for upper 4th grade students and at some point 5th grade students. And the next set and the next slide. Brick Q Motion are similar to the prime sets, and there's 2 prime sets. We'll get to the other one in a moment, but are without the computer connections. So there's no coding. And this is recommended for 6 years old and up. Next slide, please. Also 18 kits of the Spike Essentials. The Spike Essentials is the introductory computer coding and it's block coding kits. And this is for 6 years old and up. So 1st graders can use this and start coding. There's motors, there's adapters, there's wheels that all respond to the computer codes that the kids will put together. Next slide, please. We have 10 kits of the Creator Lego bricks at each site, and this is designed for ages 4 to 99. They can be checked out also and used in the classrooms and of course on the Lego walls. Next slide, please. We also have 10 kits of the story tales, and you see placards of designs of pictures, and students can make up stories around those pictures and then tell stories and eventually write stories or have someone transcribe their stories for them. These are available for TKK and 1st grade especially. Next slide, please. These are the Duplo brick sets, and there's 5 of those. They are larger versions of the regular blocks, and 5 students per set can use one kit at a younger grade. So one classroom can have 25 kids that are involved in using the Duplo sets. And they can be used well into middle school. I know several Lego teachers whose kids prefer them and continue to use them in the upper grades as well. Next slide, please. So what's next for Lego? A sneak peek. We're planning to expand the program to TKK and into the after-school program. And I don't know, boss, but maybe Diego would like to add to that. Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Sure, definitely. I think as a district, we're really connecting our data analysis from the L3 report this summer, which really called out the importance of early childhood education and creating more access for early childhood education. So if we go down the road of being able to add more early childhood education classes, then we need to think about what experiences we give kids in those classes and want to give them hands-on, fun, SEL aligned lessons. This would appear to work for that goal. And then at the same time, in the L3 report, we found that systemic interventions are one of the main pathways for us to be able to interrupt the predictability of the achievement gap that we've seen year after year. So if we have a program that over the next 2 years is going to grow in our after-school program, and we go from having, let's say, 180 kids in after-school programs for tutoring, and we triple it and we get to 700 kids, then our after-school programming has to be exciting for these kids. It can't be a punishment. It can't be finish the work from earlier today. It has to be the kind of work that the child says, I want to go to my after-school program. I like my after-school program. I think what Ian talked about earlier in this presentation is just what the reaction is from kids. This is fun. This feels like an opportunity to create and innovate. So I think we're at the very beginning stages, but we're certainly conducting our analysis of what kind of STEM-related activities we can get these programs aligned with in the future.
There you go. I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. Peter, would you go to the last slide for this one?
So I have a question, but I have to admit that when I first heard about the Legos, I was like, how much on Legos? What? So I want to name that because I think that there's probably a lot of families that are probably like not understanding all of the rationale and
Right.
the benefits and all of like this amazing, like, so I guess, I mean, this is a part of educating the public and yeah, I mean, I really love that you pointed out also specifically like the joy that everyone feels when they get to look at each other's duckies and that's real, that's exciting. And thank you for being an advocate for this work and for leading us through it as a board and a team. And I guess my question is, I'm still unclear on like, did you propose this to the district or did Lego reach out or it was Gilead partly? I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I mean, whoever had this amazing idea, thank you.
Diego, you want to field that? 'Cause I know you're
Sure.
the
Yeah.
driver there.
Yeah. I think it was October of last year. We had a representative from Lego Education come and visit College Park Elementary. We brought in, at the time, Dr. Singh, the principal of College Park, Angel, Ian, Pam Bartfield is our director of CNI, David Chambliss. And they said, we're all going to make a duck. And they handed us these materials and we spoke with them for a couple of hours that afternoon. From there, we really handed it to Pam and to Ian and to Angel. And it was lengthy. It was multiple months of engagement and conversation. At the same time, we were working with our partners at Gilead Sciences who've been instrumental in facilitating this work. As you all know, they made a $500,000 donation to the school district, which we assigned to $250,000 to this program. And it made this possible. That donation made this work possible. So I think it was understanding what role Lego plays in California as a leader in this STEM work, last weekend, the state of California, the Department of Ed held a STEAM conference in Anaheim. They had about 40 vendors there. Typical conference, they have a big hall. Everyone's got a table. Some people have 4 or 5 tables and they have their displays. So you walk around and take a look at these materials. It's fun to look at, and there's lots of programs, and every company wants to, you know, to bring you on board with what they're doing. They all have their booth. Lego had an entire floor.
Wow.
Lego was on the second floor with the California Department of Education and had these brick sets and had these Spike Essentials and these Spike Prime, and they had ballrooms because they were one of the hosts for this event because of how embedded their work is and how the Lego product and the Lego company is not a fly-by-night or a new company or a company that might not be here in 3 years and might be purchased by somebody else, but rather it has a stability and a continuity that comes with, you know, I'll let Ian chime in here, but comes with a really substantial amount of training and support that is aligned to this work.
Thank you. Yeah. The consistency of the Lego company, it's always been family owned for their duration that it's been in existence. Additionally, the Lego education part has written a bunch of lesson plans that are for each kit at each grade level that specifically reinforce standards, state and national standards in ELA and science and mathematics. So there's lessons that the teachers have access to and can present to their kids, are very readily accessible by teachers, don't take a lot of prep work at all. And they follow the 5E model of lesson planning, which is very standard in education, and have a lot of extras. Our teachers are not being coerced into doing this, they're being encouraged. And we're allowing teachers to get excited about it and get started at their own pace. And boy, I tell you, as soon as one teacher starts doing it at a school, all the other kids hear about it, right? And pretty soon, all teachers are doing it. It doesn't take long. Thank you. Any other questions?
So I have just some logistical questions. So College Park, I'm assuming it was a vacant space and then we converted it into a Lego room essentially?
Yes.
And of the 18 schools that were doing this, I'm assuming we are not doing it at the 3 sort of comprehensive middle schools, Bowditch, Bowditch, Burrell, and Abbott. Is that correct? Correct. And the 5,700 kids, I'm assuming those are all the TK through 5th grade, not including
those are 1st through 4th grade.
Fourth. Okay.
Right.
And going through and creating Lego rooms at every school, we'd be using different classrooms. And would teachers build this into their weekly plans? So like it's, you know, a weekly trip to the library, a weekly trip to the Lego room, a weekly trip to art. Is that how it?
So we hope to get there. We wanted to start out that way, but with some delays in getting our rooms, our furniture and our rooms put together, we're doing it voluntarily initially, and allowing teachers to check out some of the kits, the non-robotics kits, and take those to classrooms. We hope to expand this program also and have more of those so that in the future, we can have folks using the Lego lab, the STEM space for Legos, and also checking out those kits and having them available in their classrooms. The one kits, as I kind of alluded to a moment ago, that would be very difficult to do that with are the robotics kits, just because the enormous amount of little tiny pieces. Having those perhaps only used in the lab might be a good starting point until teachers get really used to materials management, which is really key.
Yeah. And I know there was a big push by a lot of different PTAs, like the latest, I wouldn't say trend, but it was sort of the maker spaces. Right. And so like, I know a lot of PTAs started creating and fundraising for maker rooms or maker rooms. And so does the STEM room sort of take over that space, or is it in, I guess, are they hand in hand in some ways, or?
It's a great question.
This depends on each school, maybe.
Right, to an extent, but for this first year, probably the majority of Lego activities are going to happen in the lab, just because of the number of kits that we have. For example, if they're using the Motion Essentials kit, right, there's 18 of those. That's for one class, essentially. If a teacher checks that out for a couple of days, no one else can use that kit in the entire school. So as we are able to increase the number of those or other kits, it'll make the opportunities more available for teachers to take those to the classrooms. Additionally, to get back to your point of maker spaces, as teachers then are using those kits in the classrooms, that frees up the Lego room, the STEM space, sorry, to be available for maker spaces also.
Great.
So probably this first year, it'll be almost exclusively STEM space for Legos. And we hope that in the future that will soften and the maker space can be utilized again in that same classroom.
So I'll just take it one step further. In some way, with the declining enrollment that we have seen across the state and everything,
Yes.
and as classrooms become more available, we're essentially adding STEM classrooms to every school. All right.
So
STEM labs.
right, with the exception of only a couple of sites,
Yes.
all of them have a STEM space.
Yes.
Yes, we have a couple that are not able to do that due to enrollment.
Laurel's an example where the campus is just very impacted.
Yeah.
They don't have a square inch
Yeah.
to put anything new there. So that will be an example of a school where materials will move around just a little bit more.
But that could change
Could
the way
change,
that we
absolutely.
are
Yeah.
shifting
That's right.
stuff around.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Very well.
Just a comment, maybe a question. Yes, similar to Trustee Corzo, was a little bit skeptical of like such a huge investment when like there's a lot of other things we're doing as a district, right? Both in terms of like what we're asking educators to do and et cetera, like lots of new adoptions. So it's super helpful to do the deep dive and to learn a little bit more, like as someone with a background in education and like specifically progressive education, you don't have to tell me on like the importance of play-based education, and like that's helpful to hear about like in this context, and the fact that we're giving more kids opportunities to learn by playing, I think is like something we should as a district be thinking and talking a lot more about, because I think it's really crucial and really important and something I believe really strongly in. My question, which will be like a huge shocker to everyone, is a little bit about just like what are we hoping for this program and how are we tracking that, right? So when we think about like, yeah, there are some obvious things, right? Like it could be we want to see like this group of students that, you know, we see like certain engagement in class, or we see certain scores and stuff. Like, I don't know what it is, and it could be like social emotional, it could be academic, but I would love to learn a little bit more about what that looks like as we think about like a really big investment. And like it makes sense to me why we're doing it, right? And I think it's a great program, and like we want to see it translate into impacts in the classroom for our kids. So as we kind of circle back to these things, I'd be really interested to hear more about that.
Right. Measurable impacts, right? Yeah, absolutely. And we started that discussion. We're nowhere yet. Infant stages, but thanks for reminding us.
Then public comment, yeah.
Peter, can we check if there's anyone that would like to make any public comments on this section?
Yes, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to make comment on this, please use the raise your hand functionality within Zoom now. Randy, go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Thanks for the presentation, for the information. So I just wanted to, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to drill down just a little bit on, and I appreciate the questions by trustees Corzo and Watkins, and I wanted to drill down just a little bit more on the actual cost to the district for the program. So I think Mr. Kostelik said that this was made possible by the EdFound or by Gilead through a $500,000 grant, $250,000 of which were used for this program. And so how much does this program cost, right, for an initial cost? And then what's the maintenance cost, right? Because there's going to be replacement costs for pieces and stuff going along the way. And then if it's all right, there was content that was mentioned in the last section about the outdoor ed that after the board comments that I wanted to ask about, which was, does the district have any information about the percentage of families that decline to have their students participate in outdoor ed, and what those reasons are when cost is not a factor? I think that it's something really important and a great opportunity for students to be able to participate. So just understanding what those reasons are. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, President Proctor, there are no other hands for public comment.
Thank you.
So if I can, I'll address the first, you can chime in after the fact. With a program like Lego, we made decisions about how to implement the program that reduced cost. So by having one shared space with kits that are accessible to teachers in this one shared space, you reduce the requirement to have, like you could say, we're going to buy a 4th grade kit, a 3rd grade kit, a 2nd grade kit, and so on and so forth. And each teacher needs to have their own kit. The cost is astronomical. Having kits that are accessible to multiple grades gives you flexibility, knowing how much variability we have in our school sizes. We have schools with 280 kids. We have schools with 550 kids. So the way that we purchase the program is highly dependent on the schools that we're serving. We landed at about this price. We spent money on furniture because we believe that making this investment was an important mindset shift for us to make away from remedial programming as our go-to strategy with our students. Because what we expect to happen this year and each year after is more students to learn to read earlier across the board, across subgroups, more students to learn math at standard sooner across the board, across subgroups. And our most recent internal math test scores are phenomenal. Kudos to all of our teachers, kudos to all of our principals and educators, our kids, for their amazing work so far. And when you start to make those changes, the emphasis on remediation becomes reduced and creates a space to be able to do acceleration and deep analytical work, and a space that creates STEM opportunities for us was aligned to the overarching focus of the state of California, and then certainly our district being in the Bay Area and having so many ties to STEM related fields. We felt that it was a perfect fit for us. Ian, you would know more about replacing the small bricks, so I'll let you chime in there.
Right, so each of the kits comes with replacement pieces, the ones that are strategically necessary to make each of the activities work. So once we go through those, then yes, we will have to be purchasing some. But
you purchase like little packets that align to the kits.
That's
instead
correct.
of repurchasing a whole
yes,
kit.
yeah, it would be replacement of pieces, and you can always buy individual pieces as well.
Yeah.
Like it's a little taxing as far as inventory is concerned.
Yeah, I don't want to be that person.
Me either.
I don't want to be ordering the one green brick.
They did mention the
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah.
Right.
On the outdoor education side, we want many in the community to know that for the first time in many years, all of our Title I schools are actually sending students to outdoor education at no cost to those families. So I think it's maybe next Thursday or so, next week, Lead Elementary School is going to outdoor education. So we're super, super excited because that hadn't been taking place for quite some time. Angel's been instrumental in that work. So I'll let you, Angel, just give a little bit of clarification.
Right. So definitely I agree that cost is not the only factor that some of the family are choosing not to go to outdoor education. We're still in the process of collecting data this year. So we don't have the data to share at the moment, but that is some work that we'll be looking into to make sure that everyone get an opportunity to go and also taking into the reason why they are not going.
Yeah. And some boys and girls don't want to leave their families. That's a real thing as a teacher, and we only have about 5 minutes left before we're going to start to wrap up here. But in some families, it's just really hard to leave your house. It's really hard to be away from home for 3 or 4 days, and that can sometimes be a reason. And we want to make sure that we explain the program and give that access and that opportunity to everybody. And hopefully year after year, the numbers grow in terms of who was able to attend. With that, I want to pass it back over to Ian. We don't want to miss our opportunity to talk about these legs and arms over here and to give the school board and the community some. So in this last portion, Ian, if it could be more of a presentation from you before we close out tonight on Paxton Patterson.
Okay. Peter, if you would move to the next slide, please. Thanks very much. So this part is about the implementation of a new program at our middle schools. It goes by a bunch of different names. The state and the outer world knows it as a CTE program, Career Technical Education. We call it either Paxton Patterson, which is the name of the vendor who provided our program for us, or the name of the course at the sites is called CCE, which is College and Career Exploration. So what is CCE? Peter, if you go to the next slide, please. So the second line there, it kind of first and second lines we've talked about already. Our modules down in the third line are aligned with local CTE high school offerings. So all of our high schools have different CTE programs. And Angel and I met together with those folks very early on and made sure that the modules that we were choosing to go into all of our sites, many of them feed directly into the high school programs so that kids will have seen some of these before they get to high school. And there's a requirement at each of the high schools that students participate in a couple of CTE programs or classes before they graduate. So CTE is not a class that focuses on content. The goals for our students to discover what their interests are, what their aptitudes are, and what they might be interested in studying or doing after high school. When you ask a middle school student what they want to do with their lives, you can just about predict what the answers are going to be. I want to be an influencer. I want to be a rock star. I want to be a professional singer, right? An actor, these kinds of things. And those are great goals. And we need those people. But we also need to make kids aware of what they're not aware of, right? They don't know what they don't know. And a big part of this class is designed to do that. We are allowing our students to challenge preconceived notions about what they can and cannot do after high school. Some of our students are told what they can and can't do, right? Whether purposefully or through innuendo in their family or in society. And we want to break those traditions. So Peter, if you would actually go 2 slides forward, we're going to skip our video. That was
the most exciting thing I think about having a lab like.
Let's skip that. Good. So how do students become college and career ready? Go ahead, please. And it's discovering their interests and aptitudes, and they only do that by doing. Next slide, please. They discover them through using real world technology. Next slide, please. They discover them by learning to problem solve. And then go forward a couple slides, please, because let's skip that next video again.
637, the classroom where.
So both of those videos were about kids in the classroom talking to students in the classroom that were doing CCE, and then a news article that was done. These are the modules that our students are using in the classrooms. All the white listings are common to all of our CCE school sites. And then those are 12 by number. And then the remaining 4 that sites were able to use were by choice. And so they were specific to one or more of our schools. And each site, as I said, selected 12 modules specific to their sites. There is room for expansion. There's actually 32 modules that we could build on. Next slide, please. So these are our college and career exploration teachers. Slide, please. This is Donette Brenner and Tessa Delsner, and they're at Abbott. Next slide, please. Abbott has 4 CCE classes currently. Next slide, please. This is Gina Bacigalupi, fun name to say, and a wonderful teacher too. And next slide, please. She's at Bayside, and Bayside currently has 3 CCE classes, and Gina teaches those 3 CCE classes and also 3 STEM classes, which next year will turn into 3 additional CCE classes. So there will be 6 total at Bayside next year. Slide, please. This is Mark Drum. Mark Drum is at Burrell. Slide, please. Very happy man.
Drone in background.
And Burrell has 6 CCE sections currently. Slide, please. And our last main middle school is Bowditch. And this is Dustin Umberger and Cheryl Santiano. Slide, please. And at Bowditch, they currently have a full complement of 6 CCE sections. Slide, please. Components of a module. I'll let you read that because that'll be faster than me reading it to you. My favorite part is that last main bullet, conduct research to explore the careers that involve the work in the module. And this is just phenomenal. Please don't cut me off. Peter, next slide. So students, when they finish their module, they've done phlebotomy, they've done IV, they've stitched up legs, they've taken apart engines and put them back together. And I'm pointing at the resources here in the back for a classroom. The leg and the arm are from nursing, and the engine is 4-stroke engine, Briggs and Stratton, spared no expense. It's an engine that they take apart and learn to diagnose problems and put back together again. And they feel really real. For the arm, the arm really bleeds. It bleeds, of course, fake blood. But students learn to draw blood as a phlebotomist and give an IV. These engines are real, actual, full 4-stroke engines, like would run your lawnmower. And one of the first classes I walked into, we had 2 gals taking them apart with crescent wrenches and socket wrenches and putting them back together again. And they educated me immediately on what I was doing wrong, which evidently was quite severe. So they're really cool. Thanks, guys, for the demonstration. So after they've done that, they go to this My Next Move website, which is a national website kept current, up to date by our government. And it is just amazing. After they've done their 2 to 3 week module, they research what people who actually do these jobs are able to make in our area. So this first slide shows you where the student would put in their the title of the career that they were just working on. Next slide, please. They're taken then to a listing of related careers. And I chose the one at the top. You can see it in purple. Next slide, please. That takes them to a brief introduction. They watch a video They find out what this person does as a career on the job, what they would be doing, talks about the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities that these people, that a person in this career would need. And then next slide, please. This is actually the top of the page, and the bottom of the page is the next slide, which shows personality and technology that they would be using, personality traits that they would need. In the education block that are on the lower left, it tells them exactly what they need to have as far as education is concerned in order to be a part of this career. And notice that it says here under education, high school diploma, GED, or associate's degree. And then right underneath that associate's degree in blue, it says it's usually needed. Under the job outlook, because this is looking nationally right now, notice the sunshine there. It's a bright job outlook for veterinary technicians, meaning that we're going to need a lot of them in the future, and then opportunities to explore more. My arrow there points to the local salary information. If we click on that, and Peter takes us to the next slide. Thank you, Peter. In the upper right-hand corner there, it says zip code, and students put in their own zip code, or maybe they want to go live where their grandparents live. And so they put in any zip code, and it comes up with specific data showing the high, the low, and the median salary that's available in that career right now in our area, in California, in our state, and then overview in the United States. The bottom part of that shows even more data. And so kids can look and see, wow, I only need an associate's degree, 2 years of college. And if I have that 2 years, this is what I can make starting out on that. Now, I have to say that a lot of middle schoolers don't understand the value of a dollar, having two high schoolers that haven't quite learned that yet myself. But each of our
Don't get your
teachers-
hopes up for college.
Great. We've developed within our little group of teachers, we've developed a unit in itself where it shows how much kids walk through. What's it going to cost me to have an apartment in this area? What's it going to cost me to drive a car or take public transportation? What kind of food am I going to want to eat? How often am I going to want to eat out, right? Or am I going to cook at home? And they kind of make their own, what am I looking for? Thank you, projected salary and costs.
Right, and it's
in order to
really
see. Go ahead.
It's really the kind of reaction that a lot of people in our community say, I wish I had learned this when I was in school.
Yeah.
Right.
It sort of wraps it all up in this one course.
Because if a kid sees, wow, $48,000, I can make that, I'm stinking rich, right? Well, you factor in the apartment and the food and the gas and all these other expenditures. I'm sorry? Especially here, right?
In San Mateo, the peninsula, the
Mhm.
Bay Area.
Affordability.
Right. So all of our teachers, next slide, please. And please, you can cut me off anytime, but I'm just going to talk until you stop me or drag me out of here. All of our teachers went through a couple days of training in either Yuba City or Early Mart. And yes, there really is a city called Early Mart, California, and Sacramento. And I went with the group that went to Yuba City. And we got 2 days of in-depth training where the teachers were working on each of these modules. That's Miss Siltanu, by the way, in case you don't recognize her. And they got a really good background from a teacher who's taught the class for multiple years on how best to organize this. Because if you think about it, we've got teachers who have 16 different lesson plans going on in their classroom at the same time. This is a huge lift for teachers to be able to run this program, but there's great training and great support through Paxton Patterson.
And Ian, I want to jump in here and take you up on your opportunity, on your offer. Because a couple weeks ago, you hosted an event at Bowditch Middle School. Allison, you were there. Noelia, you were there. Ken, you were there. I want to give the board an opportunity to make that connection between what you saw and what Ian is presenting to the community. We do have another meeting this evening that we need to get to. But I think what you're seeing from Ian is a very innovative and some passion behind the work that's happening. And I just want to turn it back over to the board for any connections between your visit to Bowditch and what you saw and tonight.
Well, I know that I saw a whole classroom of students totally engaged in all of these different modules. There was, I think, 2 students assigned to each module. And so everyone was like doing their thing, focused, really having, like enjoying their time. We talked to a bunch of students. I know that one student talked about block scheduling and how this class actually fit really nicely with block scheduling because they didn't feel rushed. They could spend the entire time working on whatever their module was for that 2-week period or whatever. But everyone just seemed really into what they were doing, excited about this class. They said it was their favorite class. We talked to the teacher and the principal about next year they wanting to expand into having additional classes and possibly even at some point making it a 2-semester class where somebody could do 1 semester, do 8 modules, and then maybe take it again if there was sufficient space and funding and teachers, then they could take it again and do another 8 modules or whatever it is. So I thought it was really, really interesting to see. It made me want to go back to middle school and do it all again because there was nothing like this when I was a kid. I feel really, I'm really happy that our students get this opportunity.
Yeah, I remember when I was in community college and then even at SF State, I took like a career class at each place, and it was very, personality test. It was very just like computer work and looking at information, and it had none of this, which is like hands-on and like, how do you want to like spend your life, right? Like a career is picking a career is making an important choice for yourself. And I remember that we got to pick someone up on like a gurney type of thing, which is fun. And then there was also a young a student who was into crime scene work, and she was like looking at handwriting under like a magnifier that like plugged into her computer, and she was able to talk really in depth about, these are the types of not procedures, but like this is what people do to actually, investigate crime scenes like right now. And I thought it was really exciting, and she was super clear that like she thinks that's what she wants to do. And to know that in middle school, I think is really amazing.
Exciting.
Right? She might change her mind and she can definitely do that, but like it just gets me so excited for the kids, and can't wait till my son is able to take that class. And when I was in middle school, I took sewing, which was great and I liked it, but like this is next level, and
it's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely powerful.
I'll just follow up, and I thank you for that presentation. It's extremely exciting to see it, I guess, more of as in the boardroom, to share it with our community. But I'll have to say it doesn't do justice when compared to when we were there 2 weeks ago. And so seeing it firsthand, seeing and talking to the students is amazing. And so, I know that we're sharing that, we have planned to share this, and this is part of the sharing, but to have our community members see it and have our parents and see this type of class in our middle schools, I think would be eye-opening. I also just would appreciate the other thing that we didn't see is that other step about those next steps. Oh, I'm really interested in this. And just to go and click on to like, how do I do this in the future? What do I need? What college, degree do I need or not? Oh, how much does it make? I think that actually brings it to like reality for a lot of students. And so I think that's really amazing. So I'm really excited. I know I mentioned this at when we were there 2 weeks ago, was, this may be super successful, and now we have to like expand, which would be a really good thing. So to make sure that everyone has access to this. So thank you.
With that, I'll hand it back over to you, President Proctor.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to make a final comment just about
study sessions in general. And I find them to be really interesting and rewarding because it gives us a chance to take a deep dive into a specific topic and learn more about it, learn about the challenges, the successes, the opportunities. And I really enjoy the collaborative atmosphere here. And I think that it's really important that we all come to these meetings assuming positive intentions. We had a public comment earlier tonight at the beginning of the session that set the tone with accusations of ableism amongst our school district and our school board trustees. And I just think that nobody had a chance to share any information. We're all here because we support the strategic plan, the goals, the vision, the mission of the district. I think everybody's working really hard towards that. And so I think, I hope that we can come to these meetings in a collaborative way amongst the board, the community, the school district, and just assume positive intentions because we're all committed to this work. So I just wanted to say that comment and kind of end there. And
Thank you.
if anyone has any last comments, you're welcome to chime in.
I'll just add, first of all, thank you for saying that because I sometimes I feel discomfort at the tone being off-putting, especially to our staff who are working so hard to do this work day in and day out for our students and who are making amazing progress and doing more. I don't want to say more than we've ever done, but just doing things in a much different way with the laser focus and an intention to be equitable, to be data focused, all of these things that we have as a community and a school district made significant progress on. And it's okay to celebrate those wins. And I think if folks really engage with our board and our district leadership and are in this work with us, they know that we question ourselves all of the time about what we can do better, right? And that's the culture of this board. So thank you for saying that. I only wanted to add that. And yeah, I'm excited about continuing to do these. And I do invite anyone that has concerns about our board or our district leadership and the focus of our work, please reach out to us individually as well. Mm-hmm. That's really where the best communication will happen. And I'll just say again that I'm super grateful to be on this board in a district where our staff are so passionate and so innovative and focused on our kids. So thank you.
Okay, with that, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn.
A second.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Corzo and Trustee Chin. Well, I don't know if Trustee Watkins is on the.
She was, but she's in the other meeting that we
Okay, there's
have
another
going.
meeting. So, okay, well, all in favor of adjournment, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will adjourn at 7:46 p.m. Thank you.